right. Good evening, everyone. I'm gonna start just a smidge early. Tonight we're using the hybrid format, and so we have attendees both in person and online. If you are watching from a device, we're using a webinar format, and so you can see and hear us, but we cannot see or hear you. We're going to do question and answer at the end of the program. Those of you that are on a Zoom, you can go ahead and enter your questions into the Q&A or the chat at any time. For those of you here in person, please hold your questions until the end. On Zoom, if you'd like to see a live transcript, you're going to look for the menu and then show captions. If you don't see that, look for more and then captions. In the library, we're using our assisted listening system. It's very easy to use. Just come see me in the back of the room. I'd be happy to lend you a headphone. Please silence your cell phones and any other devices. And I have two programs to tell you about. The first one's coming up pretty quick. It's tomorrow at 1 p.m., 1 to 2 p.m. It's a hybrid program, Avoiding Home Repair Scams. Join a representative from the Attorney General's Community Outreach Team to learn how to make informed choices when hiring contractors and to protect yourself from home repair scams. And then on Monday, January 29th from 7 to 8 p.m., this is an in-person only program. Come and learn how to play pickleball. All right, and now I'm going to turn it over to Jim Flanagan.
Can everybody hear me okay? Wonderful. For those of you that I haven't met, my name is Jim Flanagan, and I am the founder of a company called Bentron Financial Group. And Bentron is a company that works exclusively with people at or near retirement, helping people really manage retirement on a number of different levels. We do four things. We manage risk, we help and create plans, manage those plans. We manage money, we handle investments, and then we do estate settlement. So I've been working in this space for about 35 years. I know I look much younger than that, but it's true. I've been at it for a while. And what I'm going to share with you tonight are what I call the 10 critical questions that people at or near retirement have to explore to determine their readiness. I have been helping people create wealth and reduce taxes, as I said, for nearly 35 years. And I started in the world as a financial advisor. I have a master's degree in finance from Dominican University, but a number of years ago decided that because I've dedicated my entire life to working with people that are older, an older adult affinity group, I started to study the world of gerontology. So I got a master's degree in gerontology from the University of Southern California Davis School, which is the birthplace of AARP, and then went on to do my PhD at Concordia University in Chicago. So I'm a social gerontologist. I study the biological, psychological, and social process of aging. And I am a financial gerontologist. So I study a lot of the way that people relate to money and finances and deal with money transition in late life. My studies focused on cognitive decline, dementia, mild cognitive impairment, and then on the social science side, that was the hard biological science. On the social science side, more of late life transition and financial management. So I added these slides kind of to the front because I think it's important to understand my positionality, my praxis, the point to you the place from which I come. And I think that having spent as much time in the world of longevity, I think it's something that you can be excited about. I think you have to, though, really plan to be around a long time. You have to invest in the future. So I'm preaching to the choir here, the people that are here that came out in an ice storm in the cold on a Tuesday night to come listen to a retirement planning seminar. Really, guys? But you're worth it. You're here. So I know I'm preaching to the choir in that respect. The issue here is life expectancy translate this longevity bonus that we have translate into a an additional age of life that generations before us didn't experience. You know, we've added about 30 years to life expectancy since the turn of the century. And that means that people that used to plan for 15-year retirements when I first started doing this work, now we plan for on average 30-year retirements. It's just a very, very different world. So you've got to expect to live to an advanced age. If there was one thing in recent weeks and months that I've been thinking about, it's the number of people who have told me, I'm gonna, Jim, I won't make it that long. I need to take my Social Security because I'll be dead by then. Or, oh no, I'll never be there. And I can tell you story after story about people who survived all of it and are still around and living with us today. So I think you have to prepare. The opportunities are great. Time to pursue hobbies and interests, greater opportunity to travel, explore, ability to spend time with family and friends, learn new skills, you know, late life career changes. But it also means that does late life and that extension of life just mean extension and not quality of life? I mean, we want it to be quality of life. You want to live long and die short, right? So you want to be ready and prepared because you might experience some cognitive decline if you live older to older ages. Statistics and research shows that people over the age of 80 have a 50% chance of experiencing some form of cognitive impairment. So the reason that when we were growing up, we didn't see as many people facing that challenge is because not as people made it to that age. And so we're seeing it with more regularity now. When we live a long time, we risk outliving our friends and family. So we potentially could suffer from isolation. So we really need to work on our social supports, men especially. So there are lots of opportunities, but also challenges. So it matters because I think we have to prepare and plan. And how you think about this process of aging will determine the outcome for you. Again, a lot of solid research on people's attitudes, beliefs, and opinions regarding late life. People that embrace late life, that don't have a big issue with it, seem to do well. They live longer. People that struggle with it, they just simply do not live as long. So I think you have to think about aging in a positive way and think about it in a positive framework. Um, Make sure you surround yourself with like-minded people, people that also understand your future self. Okay, that's important too. So, um, what I'm going to do now is really kind of jump into what it looks like when we try to evaluate the process of can you afford to retire. I wrote a book called Packing for Retirement. There is a copy here at the library, but I took basically the first couple chapters, and that's the presentation that we're talking through tonight. And that is, what do I do when I first sit down with somebody, when I meet them, they come and talk to me? What are the questions that I have, and what are the questions that I think you need to answer in order to really know if you're ready or not? And this picture really illustrates the fact that retirement looks different to everyone. People have different ideas about what they'll do, how they'll spend their time. What I do know is this: a successful retirement requires good health. First and foremost, you have to manage your health. You can't wait for retirement. You have to start today. How can you enjoy the life that you want to have if you're not physically able to do so? You know, how can you do the things that you want to do if you're tethered by medical procedures or follow-ups or things like that? So, if we really spend some time taking care of ourselves, it's a really important component to what successful retirements look like. Money is important, but only so much so. Again, research has shown that the utility effect of money seems to drop off somewhere around 80 or $90,000 a year of income. So a person that makes $300,000 a year doesn't rate themselves any more satisfied or happy than a person that makes $90,000 a year. Um, But ask anybody in retirement if money is important. I think they will tell you yes. It makes a big difference. Makes a difference in lifestyle, in anxiety, in how you operate in the world. So yes, money is an important component of it. Um, then we've really got this component about our attitude again. Happiness is a component that you can't deny is integral to a successful retirement. We all know people that are older, and think about the ones that seem to have done better. And I would say to you that if you think about them and picture them in your mind's eye, they probably have a smile on their face. They're probably people that, give you some positive message when you talk to them. Uh, you know, we all know people that hold the door open for people, right? They're, could be total strangers. You're holding the door open. Those gregarious people, again, studies have shown will live longer than all the people around them. It's just in their being. So focus on the things that are non-financially related. I think is the core idea that I'm trying to get across is that, yeah, money's important, but there's a lot more to it than just money. There's a lot of questions to be answered. At the same time, retirement's not promised to anybody. No one says that on this day you get to retire. This is how it's going to work. Um, you have to save, you have to prepare. The story that I have in this picture here, the no retirement story, is a true story of a couple that came to see me. This is over 20 years ago. He worked as a maintenance worker at a local college, and it wasn't covered under a pension plan, so he had to contribute to a 401k, but he never did. So he gets to retirement and he comes to see me and he said, I left the resignation letter on the president's desk. I've been cleaning his office for years. So I left my letter there. I said, that's wonderful, fantastic news. Tell me a little bit about your situation. And as we got into it, very quickly, I realized they didn't really understand how much it cost them to live. They had no real sources of income that were going to be there other than Social Security, and their savings were practically non-existent. So I said to him, "Do you still have those keys?" And he said, "Well, yes, of course." I said, "Well, you might want to go back and get that letter, and here's why." And we walked through how the fact that anything they saved, anything that they had prepared for, would only last about 2 years. And then they would be literally 100% dependent on Social Security. And then we know that when one spouse dies, we lose one Social Security payment. So income decreases again. So um, he worked until the day he died, and she, received a lot of supports from community type of programs that were in place. So for those of you that are here tonight, the first page in the appendix in the back of your workbook is a self-assessment. It's an assessment of where do you stand. And what this self-assessment does is just kind of tries to measure maybe where you're at in the planning process. It's simple yes or no questions. And the simple yes or no questions what we do is we total them up, and the no's end up becoming a starting point for what that planning process looks like. I was about to rip my mic off the table. So what the questions are grouped in such a way that they focus on basic things like, do you have a written plan? Do you have written financial goals? Do you have a will, trust, a durable power of attorney? Have you established an IRA? Do you know your net worth? Do you work to minimize taxes? Simple yes or no questions. The no questions being the place where I say people need to start. Okay. Because if you hadn't developed a written plan and you're not working to minimize taxes and you're not doing some of those things, then it might be something that you work towards. So um, that's just kind of a starting point for how we look at where you're at in your own journey. Okay. So what does the new retirement look like for people? And I would say to you, it's pretty straightforward from a standpoint that as people are living longer, they're living longer, but they're working longer. They're job sharing. They're semi-retiring. Um, because retirement's lasting longer. So people are trying to balance that longevity quotient with, when do I really want to stop? How do I find purpose and meaning? Some people enjoy their work, some people not so much. So, I think you have to understand that end of life is more expensive no matter how you slice it. So we kind of have to prepare accordingly. So what I want to do now is jump into the 10 critical questions. And these are the questions that I say everybody has to answer in order to determine if they're really prepared. And it requires a basic understanding of life expectancy. The question I would have is, how long are you going to be alive? How long are you going to live, sir? 25 from today? What age would that make you, if you don't mind? I figure 85. Okay. Realistic, 85, 25-year retirement. If you're retired today, if you're still working, it would shorten a number of years. The statistic that I work from when I plan for couples, partners or married couples, is if there's a couple aged 62 that comes to see me, there's a 92% chance that one of them will be alive in 30 years in terms of joint life expectancy. That's how powerful it is. So obviously, women will live a little bit longer than men, but men are living longer too. So people aren't aware of the fact that when Social Security first started, life expectancy was 63 and the claiming age was 65, right? So now what's life expectancy today? You know, 78, 80, different for men and women. What's the claiming age for Social Security? No, 62 is early. 65, you get Medicare. Full retirement age is between 66 and 67. Okay. So this is not a tongue-in-cheek question. This kind of how long do you expect to be alive? You kind of have to have some idea. I talked to somebody yesterday and she's like, oh boy, Jim, everybody in my family's lived to be darn near 100. I've got distant relatives, close family members, aunts, uncles, like it lives into their 90s. And this woman, again, she's in good health, good shape. So, planning for a long retirement isn't probably, this is the first time when I'm actually trying to make sure that long-term care life strategies go past age 100, that they're guaranteed past age 100. When are people making claims on those types of policies? In their late 80s and 90s more often now. People over the age of 80 are the fastest growing segment of the population. Okay. So this is supposed to be an exercise in making retirement not so infinite, but finite. We're not planning for 50 years. We're planning for 25, 30, 22, 18, whatever the case may be. Okay. The next question I ask is, how long can or will you work? Some of us can work as long as we want. Some people physically can't do the jobs that they have. Sometimes industries change, technology changes. So there's all kinds of reasons why um, we can't necessarily know how the end is going to work out. But for most people in professional careers, they should be at their highest earning years. They should have more autonomy. They really should have more control. And so if you're the person that makes the rules, makes the most money, comes and goes when they please, are you dying to get out of that place? Or did you earn the right to stay there a little while, garner that income from that time, experience that, and then leave on your own terms? But certainly I wouldn't be, in a hurry if you've been promoted to, the top of this or the head of that, then, do a great job, give back to the company, but you know, enjoy the fruits of that work. That's what a lot of us work for. It's like, if you're a surfer, you don't jump off the surfboard in 8 feet of water. You want to ride it right to the sand. So, you don't have to stay in the same job. Let's say that you've been in a career that's really stressful and nothing that you're interested in. I was talking to somebody yesterday who said, "You know what? I might go back to work in 6 months or so, but it won't be in banking." Okay, I've had my fill of banking. She can do a lot of things. There's a ton of skills that she has, and might be completely, and it might not even be paid work. It just doesn't. It looks different for everyone, and everyone's got different interests. Um, Another gentleman I just saw owns a carpet cleaning business, but he also has been a model avid train builder. So he'd help people build these train sets in their homes and that. Well, do people collect things anymore and do stuff like that? Not really. So what's happening, the people that did that are dying. And so he's actually making more money taking apart these sets than he is carpet cleaning. So he's like, it's a lot easier than lugging the equipment around, doing all that. I think I might just take it easy and do this. I enjoy it. I enjoy the people. Um, so how does that look for you in your own life based on what your skills are, what your um, passions are? You know, um, I think again, this helps you determine, I'm 62 now. I'm planning to work until I'm 70. I could work until I'm 75, or I'm 58 now and I know I'm gonna work until at least 65 when I get Medicare. That's a big hitching point for a lot of people is if you want to retire early, you've got to overcome the healthcare question. If you retire before 65, 63 and a half, you might be able to get Cobra from your company, something like that, 18 months, bridge to Social Security or to Medicare, and then go from there and then take your retirement check from Social Security at some point in the future. Okay. So this is critical that you start really thinking about what is my exit strategy. The next question I have is what's your relationship like with money? What kind of a spender are you? Are you a spender or a saver? Um, do you consider yourself an impulse shopper? One of my colleagues said that his neighbors asked if Santa Claus comes to his house every day in a brown truck. So he said, for a while there, Jim, I was ordering a lot of stuff online and I had to really check what I was doing. So, um, do you have to consult anyone before making purchases? Do you trust people with money? Does money come to you easily or is it difficult to come by money? Once you kind of understand your relationship with money, I think you know how you're supposed to treat it, how you're supposed to value it in a certain way. And certainly need to know about yourself because if you spend a certain way, you're not going to change that spending pattern technically until you're stopped. People just simply maintain continuity in the way that they live throughout the life course. So where are you at on this spectrum? Where will you live in retirement? Are you going to move to a lower cost region? Are you going to have two homes, smaller and downsized, ultimately landing in one place? I see people do a lot of things that are, I think, wonderful from an experience standpoint. Um, we had a dream about, getting our place in Michigan, and you get your place in Michigan and you stay there for 10 years, and then some subtle changes take place and you decide it's time to move home. I just had a neighbor, do the same thing where um, he's like, hey, our life is a little different. Um, My daughter has just had a couple kids. We had some twins, and we can't be up where we're at. We need to be near her, and that's the plan. And again, a year ago that wasn't the plan, but all this happens quick when life happens, right? So we have to be able to adapt. I think your willingness to adapt to change in retirement is critical to your success. because if you're stuck in the mud, won't do some of the basic things that you have to do and are so resistant to change that you can't face it, that's a problem. I was dealing with oh gosh, got to be 59, 62-year-old uh, chiropractor. So a business person, intelligent guy, hates computers, hates talking to people on the phone, doesn't like to do service work, doesn't like paperwork, doesn't like managing his own business. What do you do in a situation like that? I mean, you got it. Yeah, I said, you know what? You got to meet somebody a quarter of the way. I mean, you've got to try. If you're not going to try a little bit, then it's going to really negatively impact the outcome. I'm not saying you have to embrace every new technology, but you've got to be willing to say, hey, you know what, this online interface with the medical community is probably not going to change. I hate it. This I have to make all my appointments online. I don't talk to anybody anymore. I don't see anybody. Everything's in these apps. It's terrible. But that's what we've got now. So we've got to be willing to kind of go with the flow. Um, will you rent? Do you buy someplace else? We always advocate a lot of renting before people make moves to different states. Go there, live there, make sure you understand it, understand the market, see it in the day, see it in the night. Um, I had a client years ago looking for a home in Naperville, and she found this wonderful place in Naperville. And her daughter lived about 2 blocks from where she was gonna live, and it was a wonderful little neighborhood. And, she would go to her daughter's at night, and then they would go and swing by the house, and there was this one house across the street, about 2 doors down, that on average had the police there 1 night a week. Disturbances, guns, drugs. This is Naperville. Like, how do you know that unless you're kind of present? So, obviously, she didn't buy that house, not then. She found something close to her daughter, but a couple blocks in the other direction. It doesn't mean that the whole neighborhood was bad. It was certainly a circumstance that her age and station in life did not want to be a party to. You've got to you've got to be in Longboat Key in the high season to know what it's like to try to drive those roads when everybody's there. It's one thing when it's off season, but what's it like when it's everyone's there? It's different. So if you're going to go live someplace else or do something, you have to explore it. Um, you have a lot of options, and you need to explore what they are. Should you pay off your mortgage? Okay, I say unequivocally yes. Debt of any kind in retirement is bad. There's nothing good that I don't care if your mortgage is 2%. Why pay a bank 2% if you could pay yourself 2%? What deduction are you getting at this point? If you are paying on a mortgage late in life, hopefully you're so far in the amortization schedule that you're not getting any deduction anymore. Property taxes are capped. You're going to get those anyway. So, you need to think about being debt free of all types of debt. Consumer debt, auto loans, credit card debt. You want to know what your expenses are without debt. And if you have debt, then you want to work towards paying down that debt prior to retirement. My experience tells me that people with a mortgage going into retirement, that mortgage payment expense accounts for about 30% of their income need in retirement. So that's a family that could live on 4,000 a month needs 6. That's a big difference in terms of swing, you know. Somebody that could live on 9 would need 12. It's that it's a big portion of what people end up paying. So we used to do just the mathematical analysis. Is the after-tax rate of return on the investment that you could get greater than or equal to the rate after tax that you're paying on the mortgage? You could do that all day long. And that might be fine when you're 30 and 40, but not when you're 65 and 70. At that point in time, again, you want to look at being lean and mean, trying to make sure you have minimal expenses. You're pretty nimble, and you're your own bank at that point in your life. And again, that might mean maybe right now you live in a $500,000 house, and you have $400,000 of equity. Maybe it means a move to a $400,000 house that's paid off, if that's where you plan to stay. And I say you have to probably be, if you're going to make a move like that, first thing I encourage you to do is think about your future needs. Not your needs today, but where will you be in 5 years or in 10 years? Is a house from, a 4-bedroom house to a 2-bedroom house really going to make that big of a difference if you still have to do all the maintenance, upkeep, all those things? Or if you're much older, say, moving towards your 80s and you're thinking about getting out of the house, does it make sense to go to a condo if you're close to needing some light assistance? Or maybe in that situation, do you wait a little longer and then move into a setting that could provide independent and then assistance if you need it? I think you really have to think about those future needs. So um, that's a big component to people in their retirement. Obviously, the cost of where we live is central to our planning. What will you do every day in your retirement? How will you spend your time? People that tell me they're going to travel, I ask, what are you going to do the other 9.5 months of the year? You can travel, but um, the question is, are you going to garden or golf? Do you volunteer or travel? I mean, there's a cost associated with backyard gardening, right? It's pretty low, but if you decide that you're going to sail your sailboat around Cape Africa, it's going to cost money to do that. I mean, there are different spends that we have when we approach retirement. So, the plan that you have that revolves around what you're going to do, where you're going to live, whether you're going to work or not, then says, how am I going to spend my time? You don't want to have a retirement that allows you to stay inside 4 walls. You want to live your best life. So if that means that you want to fish or you want to hunt or you want to golf, then you should be able to afford to do those things, or travel as long as you're able and willing to do that. This is a huge question for a lot of people, is how much will healthcare and long-term care cost? They say that the average couple over a 30-year retirement will spend a little over $315,000 just in premiums and co-payments for Medicare Part B. Medicare Part B right now is $175 a month per person, right? So that's $350 a month per person for, pardon me, per person. 175 per person, 350 a month. At last year it was 165. 8 years ago it was 98. What's that? 350 if you're a couple. Part A is 0. Part B is 175 once a month, $175 a month. If you were married and had a spouse, there would be 2 people. You would have 2 premiums. Okay. Those are healthcare costs. And insurance pays healthcare costs, right? But then if you're having a Medicare Advantage plan or some plan that relies on your out of pocket, there could be a lot of costs that traditional Medicare used to pay for. People don't opt into traditional Medicare the way that they used to because they think that health insurance is free. So when you get to 65, it should be free, right? That's what Jimmy Walker and Joe Namath tell you on the commercials, that it's Medicare Advantage plans. You might even get a home delivered meal or money put back in your Social Security check. I think those statements are egregious. They're falsehoods and misstatements because they don't have anything to do with qualification for health care in the United States. They have everything to do with the Older Americans Act. Every American over 65 that's in a service area is entitled to what's called Meals on Wheels. That's a home delivered meal. And what these call centers do, these are private companies garnering phone calls in, and they'll say, yeah, you qualify for the meal program just by virtue of your date of birth. And then they direct you to your local, area agency on aging. So um, healthcare is not free. It is expensive. And if you are lured into, oh, my plan is free, you're probably going to find out that you don't have long-term care benefits. You have high co-payments, a lots of co-insurance, lots of per diems that you'll have to pay whatever you interface with care. Long-term care is that which healthcare does not pay for. So I need just some help getting to a doctor's appointment. I need assistance preparing meals. I'm not as steady on my feet. I can't clean the gutters. I need help with the activities of daily living. If you needed help with eating, dressing, toileting, transferring, bathing, or continence, then those are markers for people that qualify for higher levels of care. It could be provided at home, but you do an assessment and somebody needs help bathing and they can't prepare their meals, then how does that person function? Even though they're independent, they have all their faculties. That person needs care that there is no health insurance policy pays for lawn mowing, right? Or transportation. So we're expected to pay for any care that we need beyond 100 days in any type of assisted living or skilled nursing facility. Out of pocket ourselves. There is no health care that you can buy for. You can buy a private policy, but this unknown is something that people have to consider as they approach retirement. If people are living longer and you look at the life course experience of friends and family, um, the chances of spending 30 to 60 days in a rehabilitation facility at one point in your life is pretty high. Could be a knee replacement, could be a hip. Doesn't have to be debilitation and death. It means that you might experience a stroke at some point in your life. You might have some of these things happen. It's natural. It happens when we age, okay? How will you claim Social Security benefits? At what age do you claim, and what strategy are you using to claim your benefits? This is a pretty important question because a lot of people don't have access to pension plans anymore. And so if you don't have a pension, the only guaranteed monthly payment that you cannot outlive is going to be your Social Security. Investments might wane, depends on the amount of money that you have, but Social Security is guaranteed to last your lifetime. So the age that you take it is one of the few choices that you really control in your retirement. You could retire at 67, but not take it until 70. Okay. And there might be an opportunity in that strategy. The opportunity in that strategy might be if you retired at 67 and had no income and you were going to bridge to the higher payment, if you took money out of your savings, your 401k, how much tax would you have to pay if you had no income? For a married couple, how much tax would you have to pay if you took out, say, 50 grand out of your IRA? How about zero? Nothing. You have no income. You could defer up to about 44,000 for a married couple with a standard deduction. About 25,000 for an individual, a single person with a standard deduction. So if you'd say, yeah, if I took out 35 out of my, like that's turning the table on the IRS, isn't it? Do they expect you to take the money out of there tax free? Probably not. And then you do that for 3 years, and then you get to the higher payment for life with cost of living. Maybe the spouse takes it a little earlier, but you've done that, you've achieved that. That's again finite. I need 3 years to make it to here to get to this payment, or I need to start drawing $800 out of this account starting tomorrow. And then 2 years from now, it'll be 1,200, then it'll be 1,800, then it'll be 2,000. Your expenses will double in 13 years. If you live in the same house, do the same thing, and wear the same clothes, your expenses will double in 13 years. I've been at it 35. I can show you. I've got files and history doing this where I can't change it. And I hate inflation and I hate inflation forecasting, but it's real. So you've got to hitch your wagon to the star that's going to go up. Okay. Cost of living and Social Security will go up. And that's the one thing that no calculation that we do as financial advisors to determine when you should take it will ever take into consideration is what future cost of living will really look like. And it's huge. So if you take a benefit, rather than taking $1,000, you take it early and get 750. Think about how long it takes you to get to 1,000 at 5% increases on 750. Just bumping that up. Just it'll take you years just to get to what you started at. Whereas that $1,000 benefit compounding at 5, it's going to grow a lot faster. And that's meaningful. And no, none of our calculations that we've all done, when we get our statements, it says what? It's going to take you 13.4 years to get your money to break even. It's because actuarially, that's what it is. So if you think when you take it, between the, if you're single, you're going to live more than 13 years, or if you're a married couple, you're going to live more than, say, jointly 15 years, you probably want to wait. When I was doing my PhD, I did work with Boston Retirement Research Institute, writing about Social Security, and a representative from the Social Security Administration said one day in a meeting, he said, the greatest disservice we ever did the American people was tell them they could claim early. Because it's adversely affected people of lower economic incomes, lower socioeconomic status, people that just know less about how this works. You will get less if you take it early. So again, if you're married and one person dies, you lose a portion of payment. There are benefits for widows. There are benefits for divorce. So there's a lot there. Anybody worried about solvency? No? What means will they have the money to pay you? The government's got the money. Like they've got a printing press, right? And they don't even we don't even have to apply for stuff anymore, right? They just send it right to your bank account. So I don't think that we're likely to be the voting bloc that would vote away our benefits. So in history, we don't take them away from people that are at or near retirement. When this occurred last time that we changed the retirement age from 65 to 67, which is what they're talking about now, changing it from 67 to 69. It only affects people under the age of 25. So not even a 32-year-old is affected by it. They're still going to retire at 67. But future generations, so if we change the retirement age to 69, we increase the payroll tax by 1 or 2%, and maybe we take away the earnings cap, let people pay high earners pay, and let them get higher benefits, the system would be solvent for another 100 years. No problems whatsoever. It's the Medicare health plan side of the program that's really in trouble because it's free. And I'd say to you, if it's free to so many people, who's actually paying for it? It's all of us. It's the taxpayer. We are all subsidizing it. And so, it's just how you look at it. Another question I have is, do you have philanthropic goals? Like, is there something in your mind that you say, I absolutely have to leave the house to my kids? Got to leave it free and clear no matter what happens. If this happens or that happens, I want to leave this to this person, or I want to leave a gift to a university. Maybe a gift to the Elmhurst Library for all the work that they've did in your life, educating and informing you. I don't know. But if you do that, it's just simply going to be an addition to whatever need you have. Okay? It just means that if I needed X number of dollars to retire and I wanted to leave make sure that I had a solid gift for my children, like the family home or a cottage or something, then you need to be able to have ample assets around that in order to still reach all those goals. Does that make sense? So the last question then is, can I afford to retire? The answer to the previous 9 questions: how long will you live? What will you do? How long will you work? What will your healthcare costs be? Will you have debt? Will all determine this readiness. And there's different levels of readiness. I've worked with people where I'd said, yeah, you could maybe make this work. That's probably not what you want to hear. You would not want to go into retirement with every source of income you have turned on full blast out of the gate. How do you get a raise in 5 years? It can't just be enough. If your expenses are truly going to go up, and they will, even if you have, like I said, no debt, no mortgage, property taxes are going up, health insurance premiums go up every year with age. Anybody been to the grocery store or the gas station? Oh, that's just going to stop because you're retired. No. Go back in your mind and think about what things cost when your parents and grandparents were in their retirements and then what they are today, and then ask, what are they going to be in 20 years? I'm anticipating that in 20 years, a year in a long-term care facility will cost somewhere between 350 and 500,000 a year. But all boats in the harbor are going to rise because at that point, people at McDonald's will be making $80,000 a year, right? Maybe. It's all going up. I never dreamed that the paper boy would be making 35 grand a year, right? But you got to be able to put kids through college, and you need a living wage to do those jobs now, apparently. Does anybody have any questions?
I'm sorry, can I hold just for a second? If we are going to ask questions, we do have to use the microphone, just so people in Zoom can hear you.
Audibly. My name is John. I just have a question. How did you mention that the Medicare is free?
Okay, Medicare Advantage plans, most of them have no premium.
Oh, but when you work, they deduct.
Well, that's when you're retired. That's when you're on Medicare over the age of 65 and not working. Then there is health insurance options for people that has little or no premium.
Oh, in a sense of additional benefits to Medicare are free,
There's no premium. You don't pay for
no
it.
premium.
It's zero.
I see.
And they give you a health club membership.
Oh, thank you.
Any other questions?
Any other questions?
Just checking here online.
Anything in the chat?
No, not yet. It might take their fingers a few minutes to type those in. Do you have a question?
So we will have drastically different Social Security payments due to us individually. Is it to our advantage to have her take hers earlier than mine?
So the way that we approach that is simple. There's too many variables for me to just say, yeah, do this, because there's age disparity, there's income disparity, and then there's work history. The work history could mean that there was also somebody that for a period of time paid into a teacher's pension. And so there's going to be a windfall offset from somebody receiving a benefit. So here's what we do. If anybody emailed me their date of birth and their full retirement age estimate, then I can do an analysis that I'll email to you that would tell me the 4 strategies that would achieve the best outcomes for you. And they would give you the filing dates and the strategies to tell you. Because here's what I've found: if the disparity, like I would ask you that if I told you that the difference in total payments that your family would receive over 30 years between both of you waiting to age 70, you waiting to 70 and your spouse taking it at 67, was $20,000 over 30 years, we'd be like pulling it at 67, right? I mean, that's what the math tells me. Is 20,000 over 30 years, 20 years from now meaningful? Probably not. Probably not. So then today is what's important to us. So I want to be able to tell you that it's okay to take it early. That's what those analysis will do. If there's big disparity in the claiming strategies, it'll tell us quickly in that analysis. It shows you the break-even points for each analysis, the total payout for each analysis at different ages based on a certain life expectancy.
And Social Security is a taxable income?
85% of your Social Security, if you, as a married couple, make more than $44,000 a year, will be taxable to you. Thank you.
One from online. What are your thoughts on long-term care insurance? It is expensive. Is it worth it?
Um, in my opinion, the approach that we're taking today is we're not buying traditional long-term care where you pay a premium. It's like auto insurance. If you buy a policy and you never use it, you don't get anything back. What we're using now are life insurance, long-term care hybrids. So I'll buy $1 million worth of benefit. I have $1 million worth of death benefit and $1 million worth of long-term care. If I die tomorrow, my family gets $1 million. If I live until I'm 80, I'm thinking that my $1 million will last me 2 or 3 years. So that policy I bought when I was 52 costs about $10,000 a year. Policies for people in their 60s, I think you've got to be willing to commit about $20,000 a year per person to deal with the strategy that's needed. But is it worth it? If you go into a long-term care facility, I think it's worth it. And if you die in this strategy, you still get all your money back. Or if you do both, you would get your money back, meaning that, I could have this policy, go into a facility, use care for 12 months, and then die, and there's still 600,000 left in my policy, and then my family gets that tax-free. So at least it's not use it or lose it. The premiums can never go up either. So they're guaranteed. And then as soon as you begin to make a claim, premiums are waived. So as soon as you make a claim, you don't pay that premium anymore. And that could happen. Think about I said the threshold for those policies are those activities of daily living: eating, dressing, toileting, transferring, bathing, and continence. It can't perform any 2 of those 6, and boom, they turn that money on. So think about that. If you just had at some point, let's say you were in a car accident, that benefit could be turned on, even if it was turned on temporarily. I mean, after 90 days, you'd qualify for the benefit. It might turn on for a year. You recover, rehabilitate. They take your $1 million down to, 920,000, and life goes on. You go on your merry way and live for 10 more years, die mysteriously overnight, and death benefit pays out. I think it's expensive. I know it's expensive. I think you have to look at what you're trying to protect. So I classify the risk by net worth. If you've got more than a couple $1 million, then you probably, can afford to self-insure, but can also afford a strategy. If you got less than $600,000 or $700,000 total net worth, don't worry about it. If it happens to you, you're going to spend it all away. It'll be gone within 2 years. Okay. It happens very quickly. My average spend right now for memory care is around 20 grand a month. I just had a lady in a memory care that we hired in a long-term care facility, a really good one, but she's not getting the care because the care is stretched thin everywhere. So we hired a caregiver to sit with her 12 hours a day in the nursing home where she's got 24-hour care. That's going to be another 100 grand a year. So that's what we're up against.
Yeah, so I just got laid, but you are probably talking about some sort of like a life insurance, which will help you to live when you retire on the top of like your social security payment or like pension payment or like any type of savings. But there's no medical plan or like whatever you can buy for like a long-term care, because we have like spouse, then she or he dies, and then you are alone. Then you have some kind of accident. You end up going to like a rehabilitation. Then you don't feel safe to go back home, and let's say you stay in a long-term facility, like for like a nursing home, so you pay out of pocket, right?
That's correct. That's what we're talking about.
Imagine.
Buying a policy that would reimburse you for paying out of pocket.
So what type of
It's a life insurance long-term care hybrid.
long-term care?
Very expensive.
Really?
And it does require very good health to get it.
To get it. So when can you buy it? Like what age?
You can start as early as age 40.
Oh, what about for someone who's 60?
Sure.
You can still buy it,
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
but then it'll be more expensive.
It'll
right?
be more expensive. Every year you wait, the price goes up.
Uh-huh.
And every year you wait, your health deteriorates further.
Unfortunately, there is a lots of people that are re-retiring right now, going back to workforce, even they retired previously because they cannot, survive on the income they have because something is
Well,
getting.
then this isn't an option for them.
Uh-huh. Let's say you'll retire even at early age. You can be taking like Social Security and then get Medicare at 65 and keep working. And if you keep working while you retire it, you pay all those taxes, and then you'll get like your Social Security reevaluated every year. Like it's gonna get higher,
Yeah.
right?
Hmm.
I think that's it.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you all for your time and attention. I wish you the best with your planning. If you have any questions, my information is on the slides. You can email me or call the office, and we'll answer any questions that you have. All right, you're very welcome.